Alright, so assuming that you're here at this video because you clicked on my face from the other video, I'm just going to get started here. But if you have no idea what I'm talking about, go see that other video. It is gonna blow your mind, probably. See, what I'm attempting to do here is something called the Sleeplock Challenge. It's something based off the original Pokemon Nuzlocke Challenge that was made because somebody hates themselves, I guess. But, okay, let's just start talking about rules because no one wants to hear an introduction when you probably came here from the Twitch account because you just want to know what the rules are. So let's just talk about that, alright? Let's get a list out. 1, 2, 3. Okay, here are the main Nuzlocke rules for any Nuzlocke challenge, for any Pokemon game, okay? Rule number 1, Pokemon die when they faint, so they are either permanently boxed or they're released. I'm going to be doing permanently boxing because I'm too much of a pussy to release them. Rule number 2, you can only catch the first Pokemon you encounter in every route. Cities count as separate routes, by the way. If the capture attempt fails, I don't get anything for that route. I have to not have anything new, basically. And rule number 3 for pretty much any Nuzlocke challenge, if you want to do it right, is that you have to nickname all of your Pokemon. That is a rule to make you more emotionally attached, I guess. But recently, someone's come up with the idea of the Sleeplock Challenge, which is incorporating all the rules of the Nuzlocke Challenge, except there's one other rule. I am not allowed to leave for any reason, unless it's an emergency, until the champion has been defeated, or if I fall asleep. I don't want to fall asleep, that'd be embarrassing. But wait, there's more. We've got a lot of optional rules that I've thrown in. A lot of these are generally considered to be legitimate rules to make the Nuzlocke Challenge actually harder than it should be. But I have thrown some mercy rules in too, just to make the race a little bit more fair. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the race, again, look at that other video I made, put a link to at the beginning of this video. Okay, optional rules, let's go. Rule number 1, there's the Dupes Clause. This is a very popular optional rule, the Dupes Clause. Basically, the first encounter rule only applies to new things, so like I can't have an army of Pidgeys or something because I can only have one of each guy. This also applies to evolutionary trees, so if I catch a Rattata and it dies in like 3 seconds, I'm not allowed to catch Eradicate because it's still related to the Rattata that I caught. So this is basically just to make it a little bit more interesting. Now here's another fun rule, the randomized starter rule. Basically, I'm not allowed to pick my starter. My starter is based on the trainer ID that I get at the beginning of the game, so it's the last digit in the trainer ID, so if it's a 1 through 3, I get a Chikorita, because I'm playing Crystal version, 4 through 6 is Cyndaquil, and 7 through 9 is Totodile. And if it's a 0, I am actually allowed to pick, so I guess I'd be going with Cyndaquil. Now here's an optional rule that I'm not sure is recognized as an optional rule, but it is kind of important to mention the non-wild captures of the game, or things that you can get from NPCs. Basically, the way I'm tackling that is, if it's given to you by an NPC, you're allowed to use it no matter what. If it hatches from an egg, you're allowed to use it no matter what. But here's the thing, Dupes Clause is still a rule, so I'm not allowed to have multiple of anything. So if I'm given something that I already own, it's automatically dead. I'm not allowed to, like at things like the Game Corner, I'm not allowed to get more than one of each thing they offer because Dupes Clause still exists. And also I'm not allowed to lay eggs. I can hatch eggs that are given to me by NPCs, but I'm not allowed to use my own guys to lay eggs for me. Number 4, set battle mode. I, immediately upon starting the game, have to make sure that in the options menu, I've switched the battle mode to set, meaning I'm not allowed to switch out between Pokemon during trainer battles. That makes the game a little bit more interesting and a little bit more challenging. Rule number 5, there's the... Okay, so this is especially important for the Johto games, because there's actually a big period of time in this game where this is important. The beginning no Pokeballs clause. Basically, the first encounter rule does not apply until I actually have Pokeballs and can catch things. In the Johto games especially, you actually go through 2 routes before you can actually catch anything, which would be a little unfair if you actually want to catch things. So I'm basically ignoring that rule until I can actually catch something. HMs. HMs are always a huge part of Pokemon games. You gotta teach certain Pokemon certain moves so you can actually get farther in the game. So if there's ever a point where I need an HM to get farther with the plot, but I don't have anything that can use that HM, I'm allowed to catch something else and use it until I catch a legitimate until I get a legitimate capture. Basically, it's just so I can actually get farther in the game without cheating. I can also use dead Pokemon until I get something legitimate. But as soon as I do actually catch something that can use that move, I have to teach it that move, and I have to have it in my party until I don't need it anymore or it dies, whatever. Basically, HMs aren't going to be a barrier to get me farther in the game. All right, here's the last non-mercy rule, although I might sort of technically count it as a mercy rule, but the shiny Pokemon clause. Okay, so the encounter rate for a shiny is something like 1 in like 7,000 or something like that. It's really, really, really rare to run into a shiny. So if I run into one, just on the off chance that I actually run into one, I'm allowed to catch it and use it, even if it's not the first one in the route, and it also ignores the Dupes Clause. So yeah, basically, I'm allowed to use it no matter what, because it's just so rare. It'd be a shame if I wasn't. Alright, now for the mercy rules. There's 2. There were 3, but Purpolite pushed me away from one of them. Probably because he wants to win the race, but, it makes sense. But the first mercy rule is that the gym leaders act as checkpoints. So if I get a game over, instead of losing, I just get sent back to the last gym leader that I beat. Basically, I can only save immediately after defeating a gym leader. And then I have to basically go through however much progress again, but it is what it is. It's better than losing, I guess. And here's the other mercy rule that is actually not recognized as a general rule. Like, if you were to look up Nuzlocke challenges, you wouldn't find this rule there because I just made it up on the spot. But basically, I name my starter after me. My starter's name is going to be ClearPearl, and it will not die when it faints. It's basically, when it dies, I can bring it back, but I have to use a revive, and it can only be during a battle. And I can only use 1 revive per battle. And this is only for the starter. It doesn't apply to any other guy. It's just my starter. But basically, it's there so to make it a little bit easier to keep the race going, because it would suck if I lost all my best guys and have to train another like 3 hours because I have to bring up a bunch of new Pokemon or start the last checkpoint, which are both not very optimal options there. So that's why that rule exists, basically. And now here's the best part, the win conditions. This is how I win. Okay, basically I have to beat the champion of the game. In my case, Lance. I have to beat Lance before Purpolite finishes Demon Souls. It's going to be difficult because he's actually pretty good at the game. But even if I lose the challenge, even if I lose the race, I still have to keep going with the Sleeplock challenge anyway, until I beat Lance or I fall asleep. However, there's another part to this. Johto has a lot of post-game material, so the way I'm dealing with that is the Sleeplock challenge is won when I beat Lance, but I will continue the Nuzlocke challenge on my own time afterwards until I defeat Red, which is the most powerful trainer in the game. But at that point, the Sleeplock will be over, but the Nuzlocke will continue. So basically all the rules will be in place except I can leave whenever I want, and I can start at another time, or I can just record it and put it on YouTube instead of live streaming, that sort of thing. Alright, those are all the rules, so now you understand exactly what I'm going to be doing on Saturday. And if you're watching this on Saturday, because you clicked on the link below the video of my Twitch video, below the Twitch video, go back and continue watching the live stream. What are you waiting for? Go. Beat social, kind of.